Good evening. Welcome to I'mPossible Conversation. I'm your host, Suki. I'mPossible Conversation brings ordinary people's extraordinary life journeys to you. So I'm delighted to have Tracy McCoull today as my guest. Welcome, Tracy. How are you
Hi,
today?
Suki. I'm really well, thank you, Suki. Yeah, I'm really good. A little bit snowy here in Northumberland, but yeah, we're really good, thank you.
Oh, you're based in Northumberland. I didn't know that.
We're in Morpeth, yeah, in
Oh,
Northumberland, so we've got a really great covering of snow at the minute. I think we've got about 4 inches, which is good. We
mhm.
can't get out the streets, which is nice, but I'm not going anywhere. I've got the fire on downstairs, and I'm literally not going anywhere.
Fab. Tracy, I remember watching you on Newcastle Startup Week and you telling us
Yeah.
all about how you started your business. And that was just such a fascinating story. Could you tell us about yourself and introduce yourself to our
Yeah, sure.
viewers?
Yeah. So I was born in Staffordshire a long time ago, and my kind of journey probably started there. I left school, went to college. I left college when I was 15, and I moved out of home when I was 15. I moved down to Bournemouth, and I worked in bars and restaurants and hotels for probably about 5 years in various places, Bournemouth, central London, Croydon, and then I went travelling for a year in Australia, which was interesting. Then I came back to the UK. I went to university because I was going to emigrate to Australia. I had my heart set on it, but circumstances dictated that I actually didn't end up emigrating. So I got a job as a assistant manager in a pub, and then in Shropshire, worked there for a couple of years, then moved to York, then moved to Newcastle, and then I came to Newcastle, and then I changed my career from catering into nursing. So I went to Northumbria University and qualified as a registered nurse, worked in nursing up until 2017. 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I stopped nursing to concentrate on my treatment. I took a year off. While I was off work, I was helping my husband, who has an audio post-production company. And we had the idea of setting up a voiceover agency for a few years, actually. Probably about 2015 we started talking about it. But I had the time to sort of dedicate to help him. So while I was off and I was recuperating from my treatment, I helped him set up the voiceover agency. And then when it came time to go back to nursing, I really didn't want to go back. I kind of, having the distance away from it, kind of gave me a little bit of time to reflect, and I realised that it probably wasn't the best thing for me to go back. So I stayed and helped him launch the voiceover agency, and that's where I am now. I kind of run the audio post-production company now, as well as running the voiceover agency.
So that's what you do now, yeah?
That's what I do now, yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. So when we talked before, you said change is the one thing that has been constant in your life.
Yeah,
And
I think
listening to you, it just seems like it.
I've lived in an awful lot of places. I think my mum used to joke that I'd taken up so much room in her address book, because she said, like, every 5 minutes you seem to be moving. I mean, when I was in central London, I was working in bars and pubs, but I was moving around all the time. So even though I was in central London for about 3 years in central London before I moved out to Croydon, I was in different places. I was never in the same place. Like, it was just the culture of the business. I worked for Whitbread, and they used to move their junior managers around all the time. I was a relief manager, so I used to kind of go into pubs and kind of like help out if the manager was on holiday, or say there was a management couple and the wife had a baby and they just needed extra help. I used to kind of go in and help out. So I moved around a lot.
So would you say you are settled in Newcastle for like in Northumberland for good?
Never say never. My husband won't say that. No, I think, well, when I lived here in the northeast.
How long have you been living here?
So I moved here in 2002.
Oh, right.
So I lived in the West End to start off with. Then I moved to Tongues. Then I moved to Gateshead. Then I moved to Sandyford. Then I moved to Kenton.
All right, within Newcastle, like at least you stayed in Northeast.
Stayed in one place, yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the Northeast. Like, I think it's amazing. Like, there's nowhere that I feel more at home, I think. Like I love the city. Like, the city's lovely. It feels homely. Like some of the other places I've lived, like London, like it's so different because it's so big. And I think here everybody's like, it's like a cliche, but everybody is really friendly. Everybody is just really nice.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got the most beautiful coastline. Like the Northumberland coastline is amazing. I mean, it's cold. You've got to wrap up. Even sometimes in the summer, you've got to wear like a woolly jumper when you go out to the beaches because it's freezing. But then you've got like the most beautiful countryside as well. So like Northumberland, and there's some great places to go for walks, and I just love that. Yeah. Very
fantastic.
Like I consider myself an honorary Northumberland.
Yeah, you are. Tracy, I cannot not notice the necklace you have.
Oh, do you like it? So this,
love it.
I was having a conversation with my little boy before, saying not to come in because it's 7:15. It'll be his bedtime, and he'll want to come in to see me to say goodnight. But we've done that already. But I said to him that I was going to talk to you today, and we were going to have a conversation. So he made me this afternoon because I'm going to be on telly.
Oh, how old is he?
He's 6. So yeah, he's 6. So we are in the throes of homeschooling, which is a joy. It's to be honest, he's in a routine with it now. I just think he needs to get back to school for the social interaction because he's an only child, and I really do think he misses his friends and those kind of really like the education part is going okay. He's doing it. He's probably doing more at home with us than he would be at school because he's getting one-on-one attention most of the time. Grandma Skypes in the afternoon and he does 2 hours with Grandma, and so we get time to run our business. So we take them more. My husband and I kind of swap between us, but yeah, I really worry about the social elements of the fact that he's not playing with anybody apart from me and my husband, and he hasn't had anybody to play with for ages.
Yeah, it's been like all the kids, their mental health is suffering a bit. I don't know, definitely. Like shall I say a lot or a bit? They are definitely.
I think teenagers as well, like the kids that are doing their exams, it must be so difficult and so stressful for them all because it's really uncertain.
So in your life, you've been through so many different things, ups, downs, and you had a cancer, and then you are okay now, and it's not everyone go through with that. So what are the things most important to you?
So my family, like without a doubt, like my husband, my little boy, my dog, like my family and my chosen family. Like I say chosen family because I have family and then I have people that I choose to call my family. So I've got some
Yeah.
really good close friends that are they're just like family to me, and they
Mm-hmm.
are the people that are really important. And having your health, you can't really underestimate the kind of how impactful it is when all of a sudden that's taken away from you in a matter of days. You're kind of going along on the treadmill of life, and you're kind of just day-to-day routine, and then all of a sudden all
Mm-hmm.
that stops.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it really is like having the rug kind of pulled out from underneath you, and you kind of look at what's important. And some of the stuff that I kind of think about historically, it's just not important. The things that are important are the people that are close to you, that you choose to have close to you,
Mm-hmm.
and your health. And if you've got people around you and you've got your health, you can kind of muddle through with other things, and make yourself a
Yeah.
priority. But I
Because,
think
yeah.
it is kind of devastating. But on the other hand, I think it was, I don't want to say it was a good experience, because it wasn't a good experience, but it made me stop and evaluate everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And without having that happen to me, I wouldn't have done that. I absolutely wouldn't have done that. I would probably still be nursing. I probably would still be having like sleepless nights, worrying about my caseload and worrying about my patients, and not being able to switch off
Mm-hmm.
from work, and being in that kind of treadmill of life where you kind of get up and you go to work and you come back. But now I'm able to realise that there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to
Mm-hmm.
life and to your day-to-day life. I mean, you have to go to work. You have to kind of earn a living. That's without saying. But it's making sure that you stop and just take a moment, because it could all end, and it does just end like that for so many people. And you can't go back in time and change things. You just have to make sure that you're just aware of it every now and again, that you need to just stop and just take a moment and breathe and figure out, what's important.
Yeah. So it is quite interesting to know maybe previous you and then you now.
Okay.
What would you say success is like to you now?
Success, I suppose, like success now is little things. So I think we the business is obviously, we want it to be successful, but we want it to be successful so that we can kind of showcase the Northeast and what the Northeast is great at, and
Mm-hmm.
showcase all the amazing things that we can do here in the Northeast. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes there's a massive spotlight on like the South, London especially when it comes to like creative industries. It's kind of central, but things are starting to gradually kind of move up north. So there's a huge big industry in Leeds now, and there's a huge industry in Manchester, but we just need to kind of move that spotlight onto the Northeast and showcase what we do here, because there's some amazing things happening here. And I think
Mm-hmm.
success for the business, historically, it would have been, for me, about making money, like the
Mm-hmm.
business making money. But more than that, it's like your legacy. It's what you're leaving behind, and that's
Mm-hmm.
more what we're trying to achieve. So we're looking at working more closely with universities and colleges and schools in the Northeast to educate the kids when they're coming through, to say, you don't have to leave the Northeast to get a job in these
Yeah.
areas. There are jobs here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we need to keep the talent in the Northeast and not have that people think, I mean, there's not jobs for everybody.
Yeah, of course.
But if we can keep our talented kind of graduates and students in the Northeast, that's only going to strengthen the industry up here. And I think that's kind of I think that's more in terms of success, what I would say in terms of the business, what I would value more than financial. I mean, financial is obviously important. Without that, you can't have the other. But in terms of success, I'll be happy with our business as a success when we are literally taking graduates and bringing them through into the company, and we're growing our company on local Northeast talent.
So what about personally?
Personally, I think I'm pretty happy. I've got a lovely house. I've got an amazing husband. I've got the best little boy. I'm really lucky in that respect. I'd like a way to figure out how we can make my dog live forever, because I love my dog and he's really old. But apart from that, everything else is I'm pretty happy. My husband and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, and we were saying that I think we can be happy anywhere because we get on really well. I used to live in a high-rise block of flats when I first met him, and it was so cold in the flat. I used to open the oven door and put the oven on to heat the flat because it was so cold. And I was but we were really happy. And I think that's kind of because we've got such a great relationship, and we're kind of content with each other. We don't. So yeah, I think I'm I wouldn't say that was my pinnacle of success, like any car, but who doesn't? But do you know what I mean? I think I'm content with who I am, and I think I don't really want anything else personally. There's things I'd like to do, but yeah, I think I'm pretty content.
Yeah, it is. It's quite endearing. I've been with my husband since I was 17 years old, and I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, if you're happy, you're happy. Yeah, and it's really special.
It is.
17's a long time.
Yeah, it is very long time. If I ask you, you mentioned to me that you left home when you were 15.
Yeah.
And how did you cope? It made you so strong. Is that right?
Well, I wasn't unhappy at home. I just felt probably like every other teenager that your parents don't really understand you and they don't know who you are. But back on my career choices. So I remember seeing the careers advisor when I was due to do my options, when I was going to do my GCSEs, and they asked me what I wanted to be, and I had no clue, not a clue. When I was really little, I wanted to be a vet, and then that was about as far as it got, or a geologist, randomly. But
why do you think wanted to be a vet and geologist?
Geologist. I always really liked stones and rocks and precious gems, and I used to find them interesting. But this is when I was really little. But what I asked the careers advisor was what job can I do, which means I can leave home. And they said, you can join the army, because if you join the army, you kind of leave home. So I was like, brilliant. So I went home and I said to my mum, I'm going to join the army. And she's like, no, you're not. So and when I left school, you could only go into the army in two ways. You could either go in through the Wrens, which was the nursing, or you could go in through the catering corps. And at the time, I was like, no way I can be a nurse. No way. So I went to catering. So I went to college for 2 years to do catering, to figure out if I was going to enjoy catering before I went and joined the army. And then I just found that being in catering gave me a way to leave home, because I just went, I'd moved to Bournemouth, and I just lived in a hotel. I was like a waitress and a chambermaid, and I lived in a hotel, and that's what I did. So I left college, and then because my birthday's in August, I'm really young, so I was always the youngest in my year. So when I finished college, I think I finished college in like the June or something, and then I was 16 in the August, and then I finished college and I just went straight down to Bournemouth, and I worked there, and I've stayed there, and then moved around from there. I mean, I went home when I came back from Australia. I went home because I didn't have anywhere to live and I didn't have anything to do. But that was really short-lived because it didn't go down. It didn't go down very well. So I was only there for a few years, about 6 months, I think. But yeah, so I've always been pretty kind of independent.
Where did you get that trait?
My little boy's got it though.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he's definitely got my independent streak. But I love that about him. I love the fact that he's independent and he doesn't want any help. He can do it himself. Thank you very much. So I like that. But yeah, I've always been like that. I kind of have quite a strong mindset. And I think you can probably chuck most things at me and I'd be absolutely fine, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
So what do you usually do for fun? Have you got any hobbies?
Well, so pre-lockdown, I hate that word, but pre-lockdown, I discovered the art of painting. So there's a group that's local called Tiddly Painters. Have you ever heard of the Tiddly Painters?
No.
So basically, you go to the pub, and then the lady Karen who runs the sessions, she teaches you to paint while you have a few glasses of wine. So my friend and I went. This is something interesting you can do, and we went, and I'm actually quite good, even if I do say so to myself. Like everybody's like, "Oh my God, did you paint that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." So I've now started painting, and I find it really kind of relaxing. And for my birthday last year, I got all the some proper paints and some brushes and some canvases. So yeah, I've started painting. I wouldn't say it's fun, but I've just started. Well, I'll just say just started running. I started running last year, so I really, I really like that. I find it really mindful. I think what I realised recently is I don't have enough time that's just to me. So when I go running, I'm just by myself. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to. I can just completely switch off, and I really like that. So I find that fun. Obviously,
are you only starting, or do you really love running? And are you one of these people who runs Great North Run every single year and raising thousands and thousands for charities?
That's a goal. That is definitely on my goal board to do the Great North Run at least once. Yeah, before I kind of I would say get too old, but people really old run the Great North Run. So I think what I did was I did the couch to 5K. So I started that when we did the first lockdown, and then I stopped because I had surgery in August, so I had to stop while I recovered from my surgery. So I think it was November I was signed off to run again.
Yeah,
but it's so dark and so cold. Okay.
And it must have been quite wet as well if you've started in November.
Yeah. So it was wet and cold and miserable. So I thought I'll just stop until it gets nice again.
I think that's quite good program, isn't it? Like starting like by minute, and then
Really good.
you don't know, and then you just started running 5K. That's just amazing. So what?
Yeah.
Okay, so like you want to run for Great North Run. If you were going to run for Great North Run, which charity would you support?
Oh,
Have you got
Macmillan.
any in mind?
Yeah, it would be for Macmillan. Macmillan were really good when I was when I was unwell. They supported me, and they kind of they're in they're invaluable while you're going through treatment. There's a couple of other breast cancer charities. It depends on like how much money you raise, but there's a charity that's called it's called Hug in a Bag, and they cancer charity based in the northeast as well, and they do a lot of good work for breast cancer people who are going through treatment for breast cancer. So probably those guys I would run for.
Yeah. You mentioned about giving away the toddler bed.
Oh, right, yeah.
And having a... Tell us about the story behind it. How did you find out, and what are you going to do, and what's the reason of it?
So, just, I suppose, it was probably in about September, October time. I was clearing the loft out, and we've all the things up in the loft from when we had my little boy. The plan was to have another child, but that kind of went out the window when I had chemotherapy, so it wasn't an option. So I've got absolutely everything up in the loft. So I contacted somebody on Facebook and said about donating it. I wanted to just donate it to somewhere. So they said the Morpeth Lions, and they do donations to social services. So I took it to a lady who's in Morpeth, and like carloads full of stuff, like high chairs and baby walkers and bags and bags and bags of clothes, and we just gave them all to her. And I was talking to her about it, and she said, because I said, I've got a toddler bed in the loft as well, but I don't know whether that's if you want that. And she said, oh, absolutely. She said, she said, you wouldn't believe how many children in the northeast don't have a bed to sleep on. So I came home and I was talking to my husband about it, and I said, it really bothers me that there are kids that aren't sleeping on beds, they're just sleeping on mattresses.
Tell me more. Does that mean they're sleeping on a floor, or are they still sharing a bed with their parents, or what's that mean? When they don't have bed?
She says they're sleeping on the floor, or they're sleeping on mattresses on the floor, or they just don't have a bed, or they're sharing. There's two kids in a bed. So I said to her, well, you can have it. So I went and we had a mattress, but it got damaged in the loft. So I just went and got a new mattress. So my husband and I were talking about it, and what we said was we'd like to do is, and we're in the process of setting up a charity. And what we're going to do is, my husband writes music, and he's going to start writing some songs. And what you can do is you can license them to be used on a kind of like a streaming service, and you get commission back from the songs. So what we're going to do, we're going to start a charity where people write songs and donate them to the charity, and then we just put them all up onto the platform, and any money that's generated from the streaming platform would go to buy beds. And we said it might take a couple of years to kind of to take off, so we would make sure that we would, because as the studio, we're going to pledge to buy at least 5 every year, 5 beds, until the charity starts generating some money. But the more people that donate songs to the charity, the more money that the charity will make.
Yeah.
So it's called Beds.
What a wonderful cause.
Yeah. Well, I was like, if we can like have one kid not having to sleep on the floor and just can have their own bed, like that's amazing. Because so this one's ready to go. So I just need to wait for the snow to go so I then deliver it.
Yeah. So everything changes from one little step. Starting
Absolutely.
from one. Yeah.
Just think like if you have a good night's sleep, it fixes so many things. Like you're rested, and kids, like they need somewhere that they're comfy and they're safe and they're warm and they're cozy and they can just kind of snuggle down and have a good night's sleep. So I thought, just the thought of my son, like just not having that, it just made me feel like I needed to do something about it. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Also, it's absolutely fantastic. Just having that idea and then pursuing it, and you have proper plan.
Yeah, we've got a plan.
Yeah.
We're partway through setting up the charity. But then we know so many people that are either composers or they are musicians, and we just say, look, we just want you to write one track and donate it.
Yeah.
All the staff that work with us, we've sort of said to them, we want one track a year from you that gets donated and put into the and it's Christmas music. It has to be Christmas music. So it's
why?
It's either, well, because we did a project at Christmas with a company, and we were looking for library music that was Christmassy, and there wasn't a lot of good Christmas music around. So we're like, there's a gap in the market for Christmas music for not the usual Christmas that you hear on the, because to license that to use on the project is really expensive. But just to have like an original kind of track that's Christmassy. But we've got like a friend who's like really heavy thrash metal. So we're like, we want a Christmas version. So write us a Christmas song in your kind of genre of music. Like let's push the boat out and have some good Christmas music.
Interesting. So because you are in that industry, what's your most favorite song? And
my favorite song?
Yeah, because it's actually, I'm just like, suddenly it just came, and
actually
it must be like something, yeah.
See, I totally love George Michael. So like he's like my favorite, and Freddie Mercury. So anything by Queen or George Michael. So, I've got so many songs that I really like. The songs have like memories so attached to them. So if you think about a song, you think about the memory attached to it. This is really eclectic. I've got the this is for my little boy. I've got the theme tune from Pokemon on my playlist. And this really kind of heavy metal song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is on there. And then I've got Christmas songs on my playlist. And my husband's like, you can't listen to Christmas songs like when it's not Christmas. And I'm like, of course you can. I've got Fairy Tale of New York on my playlist that I listen to every day.
Interesting. It's very interesting because you've been in this voiceover and an audio, and you must have very good ear. Is that wrong? Or like to pick up so many, and I know, but you are there. You notice every little, like tiny little things.
You'd think I'm good with voiceovers. So voiceovers, I'm kind of good at picking up, and I know what's good at voiceover and what's not so good voiceover, and I can hear the studio quality of the voiceover and when it's not being recorded properly and when it's being compressed too much. But my husband is like, he's my tech guy, as you saw before when we were having tech issues.
Mm-hmm.
He does,
Yeah.
like, his ear is just ridiculous. Like, the things that he can hear. When we first got together, he ruined so many of my favourite songs because he'd be like, "Well, can you hear this? Can you hear that on the song? Can you hear that?" And I'd be like, "Oh my god, no!" Because when I listen to a song, I listen to all of it, mainly the
Uh-huh.
lyrics. So
Uh-huh.
I listen to. I'm very lyrical, and I like a good song that I can sing
Uh-huh.
along to. I'm an anthem girl. But he would be just like, sentimental tact, he calls it. And then but then he'll go, "Oh, listen to that snare drum. Listen to that. Listen to," and I'll be like, "No, you're ruining my favourite songs. Like, pack it in."
Oh, does he play?
Yeah, so he plays bass, he plays guitar, and he plays
Uh-huh.
piano all the time. Yeah,
Right, I see. So that's why he knows. And
yeah. He's pretty noisy.
mm,
He makes a lot of noise. Well, obviously because of the situation with COVID, he's set up a recording studio down in like downstairs. So we have a studio set up downstairs with speakers and things with knobs and sliders on,
yeah.
and I just let him get on and shut the door and pretend he's not in there.
Mm. You can have all the time for yourself whilst he's locking himself downstairs and doing all this music and audio stuff.
But he enjoys it. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
he
Yeah.
he would do it if he didn't work in this industry. He would still make music in his spare
Mm-hmm.
time. Like, he would absolutely still do it. It's his passion that drives our company. Like, he's
Uh-huh.
so you said that I've got a really good kind of understanding. Up until kind of 2018, I was a nurse, or so like that was never my genre. He used to talk to me about it, and he would tell me about gated reverb and stuff, and I'd just be like, "I'm really not interested." But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, as time's gone on and as I've come into the business, I've had to learn more and more about like what he does, and I do understand more than I did in 2018. But in terms of technicalities, I just when people ask me questions and I say I married my tech guy. So like, if you want to ask technical questions, I'm good up to a point, and beyond that point, it's all him. And he's like amazing at fixing
Mm-hmm.
everything, and he's so knowledgeable and so like he knows a lot of his craft.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really need to.
Yeah. Oh, quite handy though. So what is your passion?
I think I like taking care of people. I think the nurse part of me is always there. So I just have, as long as everybody's all right, I'm all right. So
Mm-hmm.
I run around taking care of my friends and my family and like everybody. And that's what I like. As long as everybody's fine and happy and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's okay, I'm okay. So that's
Yes.
kind of what I'm most passionate about, is just people.
People, yeah. So if I ask you, what do you trust and depend on?
I
I
trust.
think you're just going to say my family and I want
No,
something else.
I trust myself. Yeah, I trust myself. Like, I think I've got quite a good judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with people, my instincts are quite good. I've made some kind of historically, I've made some decisions and then thought, oh, did I make the right decision? And it's always turned out that my intuition was right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
kind of with people and people that like I meet, and if I sort of don't get a good feeling, there's normally a reason for that. So I do trust my own judgment, and I think
You
with that as
trust
well.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
that's the best thing to do, you know.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
think like
really need
I
to
do.
rely on anyone.
No.
Yeah. So if I ask you, what, if anything, would you have differently in your life? Was there anything that you would go back and
Differently.
change?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Because if I could change everything, I wouldn't be here, and I'm really happy with being here. So I could go back and say, oh, you know, I mean, there's things I've regretted. Like I remember shaving my hair off when I was it was about 21. I thought it'd be a really good idea to shave up the back of my hair, which it wasn't.
Like whole hair off?
No, just right up the back for some reason. I was hairdressers. I had really long hair, and I just got fed up with it. Like I overplucked my eyebrows. I wish I hadn't ever overplucked my eyebrows when I was little. Just nothing particular.
That's like a young stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like experimenting and doing, trying to express ourselves.
If I changed anything, it would be like the butterfly effect, and I wouldn't be here now, and I'm really happy that I'm here now.
Yeah. Is there anything you've thrown away in your life that you wish you hadn't? Because you are Marie Kondo fan, aren't you?
I am. I'm a bit of a tidy person, so I throw stuff away all the time, and I go, oh, I can make such and such, and my husband will go, you've probably thrown it away, which is, I used to have this really lovely denim jacket, and I think it kind of it was dark, and it kind of, I think it went out of fashion, and it was like bleached. Like denim was in fashion, and it was a long time ago, it was in the 80s, and I got rid of it, and I always regret it because I really loved it, and it probably would be really nice now, pretty vintage. But yeah, if stuff stays around like clutter, and it's not organised into kind of boxes or compartments, I just throw stuff away. My little boy had to do one of his homework the other day was he had a worry wall because they're kind of looking at their kind of mental health, and he had to write down what his worry would be on the worry wall, and he wrote on the worry wall, I worry that my mummy will throw my toys away. And I said, well, why? He said, well, you just throw everything away, mummy. You throw stuff away all the time. And I was like, oh, right, okay. But he said, is my favourite animal a vulture? Because vultures tidy up, because they go around and tidy up when the animals die. They eat the other animals, and they tidy and clear everything up. He's like, it's just like you just go around and tidy everything up. So
yeah, but then if you think the tidy house, it's a tidy mind, isn't it?
That's how I think. Tell that to those two. Yeah, no, they are. I have the messiest two boys, but then I just go around and tidy it up. So it makes a difference. Because
Tell us a bit more about your little boy. Like, how is he more like you and unlike you?
Well, he's really like, he's a good combination of me and his dad. So he's got his dad's kind of creative side. He's got my stubborn side. He's got my determination. So you've got kind of a creative, stubborn, determined, kind of willful person. I mean, he's but then he's got this really lovely, like gentle side and thoughtful, and he's really caring. Like he thinks of things, and it's amazing how you like he'll just come out with something. So the other day we were talking, because obviously he hasn't seen his grandparents for such a long time, and he made them all cards just to say that he was missing them. And he did that completely off his own back. He just went and got the paper out of the cupboard and he wrote them, and he'd written in to like, Grandma and Grandpa, I really miss you. And then he was like, we need to post these because for Grandma and Grandpa. And it's just little things like that. And he's just like, oh, he's just got like a really lovely soul. Although on the flip side of that, he can be kind of bouncing off the walls and pretending that he's battling with Pokemon in the lounge and running around wrecking the place. But so yeah, he's definitely kind of a really good mix of me and his dad. But the best bits, I think.
Lovely, and he's only 6 years old, isn't he?
He is only 6, yeah.
Yeah, and then such a precious age.
Yeah, definitely. He's yeah, I think it's that kind of he's the way that his mind works and the way that he thinks about things and the way that he sees things is just fascinating. It's fascinating to listen to him, his logic and reasoning. The minute you kind of have a conversation with him and he'll say, you know, well, you can either do A or you can do B. And you'll go, I mean, what about C? And what about this? And he's like negotiating with you all the time. And I can just see myself in him all the time. It's like, well, actually, I don't want to do A and B, so I want to do C. So he's like trying to kind of work out so he can get what he wants.
Yeah.
So, and that is definitely me.
It is fascinating. They have only A and B, not C, because the C is this grown-up stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say the biggest lesson you've learned so far in your life?
Not. I suppose it goes back to, most things go back to the massive change that I had in my life, which is that don't take life for granted, because you don't know. Like I remember having the moment where I had a real panic attack, and I thought that my cancer diagnosis was going to be terminal. I thought because I kind of worked myself up into kind of like a panic about it, because you have to. I mean, 2 weeks is not long, but when you're waiting for your results to come back, and they'd already said that the cancer had spread, but we didn't know how badly it had spread. So we didn't know whether it had gone into my lymph nodes or into my neck and into my brain or into my lungs. So we had to wait for the results, and it was 2 weeks, and it was like the longest 2 weeks of my life. But prior to the diagnosis, I'd watched the documentary, which was Rio Ferdinand did the documentary about his life with his kids after his wife died of breast cancer, and his wife had a diagnosis, and she died 4 weeks later. And in my head, I was on my second week, and I kept saying to my husband, I could be dead in 2 weeks, and that's all that kept going through my head, because I was thinking, well, that, you know, she died in 4 weeks after her diagnosis. How do we not know that that's not going to happen to me? And I just could not shift that out of my head. So then I was like, right, I need to make plans. So I wanted my husband to take me into the studio, and I wanted him to record me reading stories to my little boy. So he would remember me and remember my voice, and I wanted to make sure that he could hear me reading him bedtime stories. And I was trying to plan for not being here. And that, like, those 2 weeks were just horrendous, because there's nothing, like, I couldn't shift my head out of that space at all. And when I got the results, and it was treatable, and it hadn't affected me. It was just it's stage 3, so it wasn't stage 4, which is when you're kind of terminal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really lucky. Then everything, like I said before, everything else just doesn't matter, because your health and being here is the most important thing. And then every day is like a bonus, because if I hadn't have caught it soon enough, if I hadn't have found the lump when I did, things could have been very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of aware of that. Bedtime.
Yeah,
So
it is.
So yeah, it's kind of, that makes, I think it's that thing that you say when you stop and think about it and your life changes like completely. You can't go back, because it's like going through, I think, like not paying attention to life, and then once you think it's going to be taken away from you, it heightens everything, because you're like, I'm going to miss everything. I'm going to miss him growing up, and he's going to grow up without his mom. I'm not going to see him kind of finish school. I'm not going to see him grow. I'm not going to see him beyond now. So I think having that happen definitely changes your perspective on everything.
Yeah, I bet it does. Yeah, but it makes you stronger. And then
Oh my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the thing is that the amazing thing is the care and attention that you get from the NHS. Honestly, like I can't
NHS.
I can't speak highly enough. Honestly, that from the second that I went into treatment, so when I went in initially with the lump, all the way through to, so August was my last surgery, so I had reconstructive surgery in August, and I've got one more operation to go, which will be happening this year, maybe, depending on what happens. It's not urgent; it's just cosmetic, so it's not urgent, and it when it happens, it happens. It could happen in 2 years' time. It doesn't really matter. But the treatment and the care that we got from well, we were at the RVI, because we're still living in Newcastle. We moved to Northumberland, but we'd only been here like a couple of months. So we bought a house which was derelict, pretty much, ceilings hanging down and no heating in half the house. And then we found out the diagnosis. So we're trying to renovate a house and also go through treatment. So because we'd only just moved, I hadn't moved my doctors to Morpeth. So I was still registered with my doctor in Newcastle. So we had all our care and treatment under the RVI, apart from my chemotherapy, which I had at one sec. But just absolutely amazing. Like, it's brilliant. I can't speak highly enough of them. Like, they're really there for you from the very beginning. And the support and that you get is just phenomenal.
Yeah, the NHS is one of the best things we have in UK, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure it's in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not looking after it.
Absolutely. So, what's the big plan? Let's say tomorrow is a COVID. We are going to be COVID free tomorrow. What's the first thing you're going to do?
I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to go to my mother-in-law's, and I'm going to give her a cuddle, because she's just in Newcastle, and she's desperate for a cuddle. But we would all get in the car, drive to Newcastle, and go give Grandma a cuddle, because she's just, oh, bless her, she's beside herself. She's not seen her grandkids like in the flesh for, I can't remember the last time we saw her like in the flesh, but she's really she's just had her first injection, so hopefully things are kind of turning around for her. But yeah, that, and then, oh my God, my sister had a baby in May, and I've only seen her once because of
In
COVID.
May. So it's been like 7 months old babe. Uh-huh.
So, well, she was supposed to come up just before Christmas, and then we went into lockdown, and then, I mean, yeah, it's been really tough. So I've seen her lots on Zoom, but yeah, I'm definitely in deficit of some auntie cuddles. What else do we do? COVID. I don't know. Like there's nothing, like just people.
Lots of cuddles.
I just ring people. I go, I'm coming round for a cuddle. I probably go and cuddle the neighbours and make sure, like, you get kind of close to people again, because I think that's the thing that matters, and that's the thing that I miss.
Yeah, just can't wait. Like really fed up of Zoom calls. It's not same at all.
No, it'd be nice to kind of ring my friends and go, oh, do you want to go for a coffee? Like, and not go for a coffee and walk it like 2 meters apart. And
yeah, it is better than nothing. But my God, this physical, like hugs and meeting up with
everybody
people.
Will be getting hugs. So there's people randomly in the street. I'll go up and start hugging people. They'll be like, oh my God.
Yeah, I just can't wait. So what do you think, why it is important to tell your stories?
So I think not my story as such, because my story is just my life. I think it's more to do with the thing that I think is important to tell, which is the thing that I've not actually talked about yet. It's the fact that I didn't know that I had a lump, and it had obviously been there for a while. I checked my breasts quite regularly, but what had happened was my little boy elbowed me in the breast. Where he was climbing on me, and he just elbowed me. And the next day it was like, oh, that's really sore where he's elbowed me. And because it was so deep in, it wasn't until I had that injury that I felt this lump. And you couldn't, when I was standing up, you couldn't feel the lump. But when I lay down, you could feel it. And I think that's something that I think is important to get about, is when women are checking, and men, because breast cancer happens in men as well as women, is to check when you're lying down as well as when you're standing up. Because if my little boy hadn't have elbowed me, I probably wouldn't have found it, and it probably would have been a lot worse. So it's to check, because, like I say, I had no symptoms. I had no clue that I had breast cancer until he elbowed me in the booth. So yeah, I think it's just check, and if people check and it helps one person and stops one person going through everything that you have to go through when you have to have chemotherapy and radiotherapy and all the surgeries, then absolutely, it's totally worth talking about it. Although, like, it's not that I don't like talking about it. I feel sometimes that, like, that it's a story that needs to be told, but I don't know whether people want to hear it, because it's not nice, it's not great, but it is a massive part of who I am. And
personally, what I think is people really do need to hear it, because they don't know what's happening. And and it's like, thank you so much sharing your story and your journey and how strong you've been. And like you said, as long as it helps just one person,
Absolutely.
That
If you
is
could
the
save
job,
one
because it's
person.
one person. It's a one person. It's not just that person. It's a family.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
And yeah, and
And then
it's so much,
family and family.
yeah,
It's all about the ripple effects.
it is absolutely.
So it's 8 o'clock now, and this brings our conversation to end.
Well, it's
Is
been lovely
there?
talking to you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to have you on I'mPossible Conversation, and thank you for being you and sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me. It's been really lovely to chat to you.
Thank you. Right, let's catch up later, yeah? Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.